Hey, 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 happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, as well as a new sponsor. And we will talk about that sponsor in just a few moments. Welcome aboard, everybody. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. This is live stream number 1119. Yikes. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, it's super casual. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I'll usually pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, which I shall be doing tonight. We're going to talk about what tariffs could mean for tabletop gaming here in the United States and very possibly the rest of the world, especially Europe. So we're going to talk about that after the news. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, I should also mention, by all means, make your way over to gaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live show. That means there is chat available. So a couple of things to keep in mind as far as the chat goes. You have to be a subscriber to take part, and you must be a subscriber for at least 10 minutes. So if you check both those boxes, then you're A-okay to fire away. So if you got a question, comment, maybe you just want to say howdy, by all means, chime in. I'll do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Walona's Cave is with us, as is Gluin RX, Sean O'Donnell, Kevin King, Mike is slipping on in. And I think that's everybody so far in chat. So Sean O'Donnell says, yes, Jeff's off the roof. Yes, I'm done with all of that. And the funny enough, the first day, Wednesday, when I was planning on going, we just had to have some repairs done to the roof before winter set in. Some of our, I don't want to necessarily say that they're because they're not individual shingles. They're like sheets of shingles. Some of them were lifting up in the wind. So that's never a good thing. And you could actually hear it. So anyway, it's been taken care of. But the first day I was going to go up there, it was raining. So I was like, okay, so now what am I going to do? Maybe I'll just redesign the website. So that's what I did. I am having some issues with, strangely enough, when I post things, it reverts to like a default setting that I do not want. And I know I experienced that problem before, and it was something to do with my Cloudflare, which is, it's something that you'll use for your DNS and stuff like that for your website. But it's not that. So I'm having one hell of a time figuring out what the hell, why is it doing this? Because it looks great, full, it's full width, full screen. It's got the color scheme I want. And then when I post something, it reverts back to this kind of like windowed, screen, and it's not the color scheme. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? What the hell is going on there? So lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is with us, emerging from the shadows to say hello. And it looks as if they uh were canceling their Xfinity like I have. We got Metro Net a couple of weeks. Well, yeah, I guess it's a couple of Fridays ago. And so far, so good. So far, so good. Raven's with us. I believe this might be a first time visit for Raven. I don't know. Nickname's not ringing a bell. Game Cat is also here, as is Jose Fernandez. Says, not going to lie, missed watching the Dispatch last week, especially because of last week. Hey, you know what? I got to be honest. That me taking those days off worked in my favor as well, because there was absolutely no way that I was in any mood to try to do a live show, because I don't know if I can get through tonight's show without making some references. There will, of course, be some, because we're going to be talking tariffs. And we are going to be talking about the reality of tariffs, not what some jackass wants to make you think a tariff is. So I will point out, and I'll mention this again when we get into the topic, we are going to talk in realities. We're not going to discuss things, and I'm not going to argue with people who, just because they think they know a thing, are going to argue it. So just rolling that out there. I don't think we've really got anybody floating around in chat that's going to do that at the moment. I know we do have some folks who pop in from time to time whose political leanings they might get a little upset, but like I say, we try to all get along. Stephen from Roll for Combat is popping on in. Says they can give some insight. Very good, because they have some firsthand knowledge. So Stephen will be able to ascertain if I am on the right track with my pontifications. Because I'm not an economist, but these are things that I am hearing, and I am going to go back and kind of share with you some things that were going on at Gen Con prior to COVID that I guarantee you are not aware of. Stephen from Roll for Combat might be. I would assume he is. And I'm, once again, something else. I have a good feeling that Stephen's going to say, yeah, that was it. That was it. Raven says, damn it, one of my favorite games is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So we're going to get into all that. So we are going to talk about that. And it is an open conversation, like all things here at the Dispatch. I'm not here just to talk at you. Right. All right. So let's jump on into the news. And we're going to start off with this month's sponsor. Yes, that's right. This month's sponsor, once again, is, drum roll, please. I can't really do a drum roll sound effect. Roll for Combat. Yes, and their Year of Titans Kickstarter, which actually just launched today. It is 13 new playable species. New ancestries are delivered to your door, or I guess we'll say email box, really, every month in 2025. And we're talking unique species and subspecies you will not be able to get anywhere else. These are extensively developed, and there's plenty of lore for each of these as well. Fully developed cultural insights, too. You're going to find ancestral feats, new backgrounds, well, for the 5e version. Over 20 tokens depicting that species and a variety of characteristic options included. So keep in mind, you can get your hands on either 5e D&D or Pathfinder 2nd Edition. There is also a free ancestry, which is included if you're going with the Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And you'll even have access to the development team. In fact, I heard you're actually going to get Steven's home phone number, so you can call him up and ask all the questions you have about Year of Titans, toll free. So you're going to get exactly what you need to effortlessly add fantastic new playable species into your campaign. There is a short video. It's about a minute and a half, a little more than a minute and a half. And it's the usual roll for combat shenanigans going on. So let's take a peek.
Remember the last time you played a tabletop RPG and your friend cast the fireball spell, killing all the enemies and exploding your whole adventuring party? I know they say that living well is the best revenge. Well, how about you play as a living fireball spell and let revenge be the best revenge with Battlezoo Ancestry's Year of Titans. Once a month for the next year, you'll receive a unique playable species you won't find anywhere else for your D&D 5th Edition or Pathfinder 2e games. Now you can play as a living spell, a skillful cyclops, a wicked troll, or even a mighty kraken. And those are just the ones I can pronounce. En hair jar?
It's pronounced ein hairyar.
Say tires?
It's satyrs.
Okay, I think I got this one. Dual hand.
Doulahan. It's a headless horseman from Irish folklore, you gigantic tit.
Every month you'll receive a new PDF or Foundry VTT module, along with handmade battle maps, tokens for your virtual tabletop, both static and animated, and detailed in-world lore entries, allowing you to easily add these unique species to your next tabletop session. All this and more for less than a monthly Egg McMuffin. Delicious. Head on over to the link in the description to learn more, because if you sign up for the Kickstarter, you'll get a bonus species a year early. The Mighty Titan. That's 13 unique species throughout 2025 to amaze your friends and family. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to call my dungeon master and tell them that I'm going to be playing as Godzilla from now on. Godzilla.
You can reserve your Year of Titans for Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder in PDF or for Foundry Virtual Tabletop for a $59 pledge. Actually, I think it's $59.99 if I remember correctly. Might be 59. Steve is in chat. He'll let us know. So what you can do here is you get to choose not only which flavor D&D or Pathfinder you want, but also, do you want the PDF or do you want Foundry Virtual Tabletop? So that is for that pledge. You can get both of them together if you'd like for a $99 pledge, or $99.99. Any car, any color, $99.99 here at Earl Shab. Yeah, there's only a few of you out there who are going to understand that. Any car, any color. And Earl Shab. I'm not doing the voice very well, but it was one of those sort of old guy kind of voices. Anyway, you can pledge your support for this Kickstarter through December 12th. In fact, hey, guess what? Come on, guess. What? Boy, I tell you. Try to set you guys up. Roll for Combat is going to be our sponsor until December 12th here on the Dispatch. Now, delivery is going to begin in January. So right off the bat. So you're not going to have much time to relax and rest on your laurels for supporting this Kickstarter. And you are going to start getting all the goodies. And if you go over to Kickstarter, you will see that it will list each of the species that are going to be available, what month they're coming out. For some strange reason, I want to say, I thought I saw trolls were January. Yeah, could be. Warren Rollins is with us in chat asking about Kickstarters that have already been paid for but aren't on the slow boats from China yet. You know what? Steven's probably going to be able to help us out with that. I'll share my thoughts about it, but I don't know. Dice Tales is with us, pointing out, of course, Egg McMuffins are like $20 now. The Badger has arrived in chat. So it looks like we've got quite a bit going on. Quite a bit going on in chat. Steven says it's Titans and Trolls. in January. Oh, well, yeah. Could have thrown in some tunnels there just for the hell of it, right? So, as Stephen points out, once it comes into port, that's when you pay the tariff. See, now I understood that. All right. Some discussion about chickens, chicken butt. So I should also mention, what is this Jeff has in his hands? Well, I know you're sitting there thinking, hold on here, Jeff. How can you have a physical copy of Year of Titans when these are monthly PDFs? Huh? How can that be the case? All I can tell you is magic. On to our next news piece. December brings the astonishing, I should say it's Astounding Tales. Why am I saying Astonishing Tales? Wasn't that a show? Wasn't that Steven Spielberg show? Was that Astonishing Story? I don't know. It's been so long. And it only lasted barely, it didn't even last a season, if I remember correctly. Anyway, December brings the Astounding Tales, volumes 1 through 4, plus bonus for Fallout, the role-playing game. I've got the latest from Modiphius Entertainment. Let the games begin. Astounding Awesome Tales 1 through 4, that's it. And bonus collects 4 previously published digital quests for Fallout, the role-playing game. Like, you didn't know that was coming. In print for the first time. It also includes a brand new and exclusive quest for levels 1 through 20. This 100-plus page, full-color, hardcover, Astoundingly Awesome Tales 1 through 4, and bonus, that and bonus thing throws me off, features 4 previously available quests: Orange-Colored Sky, fully operational, Showdown in Skull Canyon, and Hunted. An exclusive new quest, Raider Base of Your Dreams. You can insert these quests in your ongoing Fallout campaigns or run them as standalone scenarios. Answer the desperate pleas from a remote clinic. Delve into a forgotten military installation. Protect or destroy a small settlement with a strange secret. Square off against a mysterious predator and participate in the first ever Raider games. Face new and familiar adversaries and creatures, from sentient AIs and otherworldly visitors to Raider gangs and factions like the NCR Rangers or Brotherhood of Steel. This hardcover is going to land in stores December 6th, carrying an MSRP of $44. Warren Rawlings points out Astonishing Tales was an old science fiction magazine. Yes. That's probably why I defaulted to that. Yes, good old Jeff. So well done. It's Astoundingly Awesome Tales, volumes 1 through 4, and bonus. Let's not forget that bonus. Roger Perdome is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. Following a successful crowdfunding run, the Land of Eam is going to be arriving in stores from Exalted Funeral. Here's the scoop. Land of Eam is a game about adventurers exploring and discovering the remnants of a forgotten, better age. Oh, man, that's just striking a little too close to home at the moment. Players portray lore-seeking travelers, fortune-seeking pioneers, and adventure-seeking heroes in a time devoid of them. But for all its post-apocalyptic doom and gloom, Land of Eam is a lighthearted game with a sense of humor. Set in the world of our fantasy series Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo and Dungeoneer Adventures, the game combines Lord of the Rings high fantasy epicness with a heavy dose of Muppets-like whimsy and just a dash of Mad Max dystopia. Land of Eam emphasizes player creativity and collaborative storytelling, with character abilities that allow players to invent and shape the world around them. The game is more about role-playing, teamwork, exploration and finding lost treasures than it is about always fighting monsters. So that's definitely part of the game. This standard set is going to include the core rulebook, approximately 200 pages, a bestiary, also going to clock in around 180 pages, and the first Land of Eam sandbox campaign setting, the Mucklands, which is going to be approximately 400 pages. So this standard set, which looks like it's coming in a slipcase, might even contain a Game Master screen. It almost looks like a Game Master screen kind of popping out, poking its little Game Mastery screen head out of the slipcase. The Mucklands is actually a realm of 6 unique regions, which is filled to the brim with locations, NPCs, and quests. The Land of Eam standard set, once again, this is what I'm talking about here, is going to arrive in December. I do not have an exact date, sorry to say. It's going to carry an MSRP of $125. And before you sit there and go, oh my gosh, $125, I just gave you the page counts. It's nearly 800 pages of content. I was just talking about a hardcover from Modiphius Entertainment. Not that I'm knocking Modiphius Entertainment. It's over 100 pages, which probably means about 104, for $44. So this actually sounds like quite a lot of content for that $125. Of course, you can pick up just the core rule book if you want. I do believe all the books are going to be available separately. There are some other things that are floating around as well. So there we've got it. All right. Vorpal Bite is with us, as is Chris Lundgren popping on in. Sean O'Donnell says, Muppets are definitely a plus. Lehman RX says, Muppet Whimsy, count me in. So Sean said, Land of Eam makes Jeff verklempt. I don't know about that. I can't say that's the case. Anyway, I got to say, I shared news of this when this was on, I don't think it was a Kickstarter. I think it was a backer kit, if memory serves. Just looks kind of cool. And the cover of the core book, I can see what they're talking about with the kind of the Muppet-ish whimsy. There's a frog guy. There's like a little like slime or ooze. Yes. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. We'll have to see. We'll see what happens. Arriving next week from Paizo Inc. is Pathfinder Lost Omens Divine Mysteries. Here's the skinny. Uncover the secrets of the gods with Lost Omens Divine Mysteries. The influence of all-powerful deities and felt in every corner of the Lost Omens setting. Whether you're a glorious champion calling the righteous power of your patron down upon wicked foes, or a sneaky rogue asking the god of thievery for a blessing on your next heist, faith and the forces behind it are key to every character's identity. Within this volume, you'll find details on the gods and non-deific faiths of the Age of Lost Omens from the perspective of their clergy and lay worshipers. The book also grants a glimpse into the machinations of a god, exploring how a new god rises, why a god takes worshipers in the first place, and what occurs when a god dies. This 320-page resources for both players and game masters is a comprehensive look at all things divine, making it an essential addition to any Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign and a remastered update and expansion of the popular Lost Omens Gods and Magic volume. The book updates for all of your favorite Pathfinder 2nd Edition deities, providing everything you need to know when playing with updated rules found in Pathfinder Player Core and Player Core 2, updating domains, spells, and other mechanics. These include expansions on existing classes like new witch patrons, new archetypes like the Rivathun Emissary and Powerful Mortal Herald, and a new class archetype such as the Battle Harbinger option for clerics. The book also includes brand new character options and several additional divine entities never before explored in any Pathfinder reference. This 320-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $79.99, or you'll be able to grab just the PDF loan for $29.99 on November 20th. I should also mention I will have my Paizo preview very shortly, so you will have a first look at Divine Mysteries. There are actually 7 items this month that I will be taking a peek at. We've got 3 more decks of spell cards. We've got a couple of flip mats, one for Pathfinder, one is a multi-pack for Starfinder for the playtest. We've got the new chapter in the Adventure Path, Triumph of the Tusk, and then, of course, the aforementioned Divine Mysteries in the Lost Omens line. So we will be taking a peek at all of those in this month's Paizo preview. All right, final news story. There is a fresh bundle of holding which launched. It's offering the household role-playing game from Two Little Mice. Yes, if you've been interested in this, you might want to give this a listen. I've got the deets on the deal. Adventure! This all-new household bundle presents English language PDFs of the teeny tiny tabletop role-playing game Household by, here comes the mispronunciations, get ready, Ricardo Rico Sirignano and Simone Formicola. Not even close, I guarantee. Of Two Little Mice, located in Rome, Italy. Funded by a powerhouse hold May 2022 Kickstarter campaign, Household is a Wayne Scott fantasy, a term for stories of tiny folk in an outsized world, filled with adventure, intrigues, and social interactions in a large abandoned house. Its setting resembles the early 19th century, and each room is a nation unto itself. Players of Household are littlings, little folk from European folklore. These miniature beings navigate crises across 5 troubled years, starting at the end of the First Household War. In this time of ideological and industrial revolution, the littlings overcome old disagreements and make new alliances. This epochal history ends in the shadow of a new threat. This new offer gives you the entire English language Household line to date for an unbeatable bargain price. For just $14.95, you'll get all 3 titles in the Household Items collection, the retail value of $65 as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete Household core book, plus the Pay What You Want Quick Start Guide, the rules expansion, a practical guide to living inside the house, and the campaign source book, A Saga of the Fragile Peace. These savings will run through November 27th, and there is a new Household Kickstarter which is going to launch next, I think it's next week or the last week of November. It might be next week. And I believe it's called something along the lines of Into the Garden or something like that. So it's going to be outside of the house. Kind of cool. I got to say, I love the artwork for Household. Really, really well done. But that tends to be something that we see with a lot of European role-playing games. A lot of times we see some really spectacular artwork. Chris Lundgren says, sounds cool, but they're not a fan of PDF format only. Well, you might become a fan. Once we start talking about tonight's topic, you might find yourself looking at that. Limit RX says that Land of Eam looks questionable, says it was estimated to ship last year, summer 2023. Really? That doesn't, well, sometimes I do these news pieces and it's like, yeah, I talked about this last year. And then I look and it's like, wow, that was 3 years ago. Whoa, that's pretty wild. But according to distributors, because that's where I normally will get my release dates from distributors, they tend to be pretty on the money. In fact, lately, it's like distributors are the only people that can tell me when Chaosium Inc. stuff's coming out. Because Chaosium doesn't even tell you until it's out. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, this landed in stores today. But I got to say, I'd be really interested to take a look at this. I really, really would. All right. Shoo, we got a few more people popping on into chat. Kabuki Kid is with us. Double K's in the house. Vaunus is popping on in. I believe this might be a first-time visit in chat because it doesn't ring a bell as far as that nickname goes. So Warren Rollins says they've noticed the European games emphasize the language barriers that living near other cultures bring because we only encounter different accents of the same language. Aha. Kabuki Kid says this truly is the stupidest timeline. Warren Rollins says, Fate Forge from France, for one. I am not actually familiar with Fate Forge. I've never even heard of it. There are a lot of different role-playing games that are popular outside the United States that many of us have absolutely no clue about. Just like, not that I would ever do a topic about this because I don't know enough about it, but Dungeons and Dragons is really not a thing at all in most of Asia. It's not a big thing in China. It's not a big thing in Japan. It's not a big thing in Taiwan. So Vaunus says they are TS. Oh, there we go. Excellent. My good buddy TS Luke Hart, who might be able to help us out when we're talking about tariffs as well. So there we've got that. So we are going to talk about our topic in just a few moments. Do you want to mention? That was the news for tonight. And of course, I did mention Drive-Thru RPG. I think at least once. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Anyway. Oh, yeah. You know what? I don't think I did because I did have a news piece and then it got bumped for our new sponsor. That's right. You want a closer look at the book? The magic book. I know you're sitting there going, wait a second, Jeff, they're PDFs. How do you have a physical book? I'm telling you, magic. I know I'm in the mood to be a little silly tonight. You just gotta these days, right? Verbal Bite says in Japan, TTRPG stands for Table Talk RPG. Aha. Chris Lundgren says their friend is in Japan right now. They can't find a game of Dungeons and Dragons anywhere. It's all Call of Cthulhu and Starfinder and independent RPGs. Stephen from Roll for Combat says Jeff's doing his best. Doug Henning. Didn't Doug Henning's career end in controversy? Outside of like Penn and Teller, which I know that's their shtick, right? Teller can speak because I've spoken with him after seeing their show in Vegas a few years back. So they were both super nice. But for the most part, magicians are kind of weird. It's sort of creepy. Kabuki Kid says, I don't remember his career ending in controversy. Didn't he just die young? I don't know. I don't know if he did or not. I know he just kind of disappeared, which, no pun intended with that. Well, yeah, so I don't know. I've never been a big Magic fan. I thought the Penn and Teller show was fantastic, but that was more like illusionist kind of stuff. But anywho, so I didn't talk about Drive-Thru RPG, but the Dispatch is affiliated with the One Bookshelf site. So if you are going to go visit Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, War Game Vault, what have you, please stop by gaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. I get 5%. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up. Help keep the gaminggang.com around. Speaking of the gaminggang.com, if you have not popped by, I did a redesign. And earlier today, I had to start pulling it apart and putting it back together. So the core of the site is done. Of course, I've got over 1,000 reviews that have to be reformatted, but I will get to those over time. I think I've tackled about 100 of them already, but it looks different. I've had people email me saying they like the new look. So there we go. There we go. The Badger says, like Superman and Clark Kent, I never saw Doug Henning and Gallagher together. Oh, Gallagher. Chris Lehner says, I meant nothing wrong. I 100% trust Jeff to keep non-political and just talk about economics. Well, you might not want to trust me that much. So Chris says he heard they're mostly considering tariffs on China, not Britain. That's what he heard on the AP, through the AP. So, Kabuki Kid says Doug Henning passed away at the age of 52 from liver cancer. That's too bad. That's too bad. And I meant all magicians. I did not necessarily mean only Doug Henning strikes me as being weird. Or struck me as being, they all kind of, it's like comedians. Comedians they're not like you and I, right? They're actors either. They're not like you and I. They're built a little differently. So, Flaming Heron says, look super professional as usual, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least I don't like go digging in my nose on camera or anything like that, like ball players do. My God, it's like, you do realize there's cameras all over the place, and there's got to be at least one that's always focusing on players in the dugout. And it's like, Purple Bite says all countries should be paying tariffs. It's better than us paying income tax. All right, well, so Kid says, yeah, true. I have friends who are actors. Yeah, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying they're built different. So are comedians. Comedians tend to be, even if they're not like the sort of comedians that are always like, Richard Lewis kind of, they tend to be a little more morose. So Raven says they heard all countries get a 10% tariff while China's going to get 60. Remember, they're trying to replace the income tariff with tariffs, replace the income tax. So we'll avoid most of the politics about this because I have a really hard time believing that they're going to move away from the income tax. I mean, there's been discussion of a flat tax probably for 30 years. It pops up from time to time. Anyway, other thing I should mention, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Tariff-free deliciousness. And have to say, my high school pal, Scott Weigel, good friend of the show, the Madman, and God, I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'll make sure I have it for tomorrow. Have recently popped on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made not small donations. So thanks to them. Big thanks to everybody who utilizes those banner ads and or pops on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang. All right, so something I was going to mention. TS might get a kick out of this. Oh, I'm sorry. Valnus might get a kick out of this. My brother and I have actually submitted our applications for our Yiddish, for our Yiddish Sabbaticus. Yes, aha. We submitted our paperwork for our Irish citizenship. We are looking to get our dual citizenship. And, you know, this is something we've talked about for years. This isn't something where it's like, oh, we're going to Canada, you know, kind of thing. But it doesn't hurt. So, yeah. So it takes about 9 months. So I'll be applying to Cubicle 7 Games. So anyway, so yeah, that was kind of the big news. Working on the roof, redesigning the website, and submitting paperwork to get dual citizenship, which we shouldn't have any problem. Both of our grandparents were born in Ireland. So how we trace it through. Okay, so we've got a few people who have popped on into chat. So Davey Collins, it is with us. And let's see who else. That might, maybe that's, oh, there we go. And Darius Termina says, wait, did Household come out with something new? They're supposed to have a Kickstarter launching either like next week or the last week of November, and it's going to be moving into the garden around the house. So there we have that. All righty. So we're going to talk about tariffs tonight. And I do see some folks are kind of getting a little political in the chat, which it's fine for you guys. Like I said, I'm going to try to stay as neutral as I possibly can. But I also have to point out, I'm not going to bullshit you either. I'm not a politician. I don't need to bullshit you because I'm not asking for your vote. But we're going to talk about that. Coco B said they paid the tariff and now they're here. Well, welcome aboard. Sadly, I don't get to see any of that tariff. Anywho, so I do not have a new brief intermission for tonight. So we are actually going to move right on into our topic because I don't want to just run the same intermission I did last week. So anyway, Dicetail says, wait, there's tariffs on human trafficking now? So Tessie Trekkie says, if your grandparent was born on the island of Ayr after 1922, they were not. 1907 and 1909. So if you take a peek, and we'll get off this topic. If you take a peek, it actually states in the information where we have to submit our paperwork and that, and birth certificates, death certificates, stuff like that. Says the grandparents have to be born in Ireland, not necessarily have to be an Irish citizen, because prior to 1922, of course, Ireland was part of the UK. So they were, governed by the British. So everybody in Ireland was a British citizen. So, so as far as we understand, we are okay, because my grandfather was a British citizen. My grandmother was not. She was an Irish citizen, because even to this day, I believe that if you're born in Northern Ireland, you have an option of choosing to be a British citizen or an Irish citizen. So, Tessie Trekkie says, hey, by the way, that's how they're an Irish citizen. So I'm like, got it. There you go. And yes, I am a fan of Guinness. I definitely really like Guinness. It is an acquired taste. I have tried to turn people on to Guinness in the past. And I actually, my best friend, Elliot Miller, and my fiance at the time, we went to an Irish pub, and I said, hey, you got to have a Guinness. Got to meet you, Guinness and myself. They both practically did spit takes. So I ended up having to drink all 3 pints, which was okay. I wasn't complaining, but still. All right. So let's move on into tonight's topic. I promise tomorrow night I will have a brief intermission for us. So a lot of people are curious what might happen if tariffs go into effect. And we have been told as Americans that we are going to see tariffs. Now, how much those tariffs are, I don't know, but I have heard anywhere from, for Chinese goods, 60 to 100%. And we might see European goods at about 20%. So I know Chris Lundgren had mentioned that they didn't see anything about like England in an article in the AP. Keep in mind, we don't know yet. We don't know anything about what's going on here. And as Stephen from Roll for Combat has already pointed out, that the tariff hits when those items hit an American port. That's when the tariffs get paid. So let's talk about what a tariff is, because I know there's confusion out there, and people have been intentionally misled on what a tariff is. So a tariff is essentially an additional cost that is placed upon a good which is produced outside of the country that it's being shipped to. And the country that it's being shipped to places a tariff on these goods. And the reason why they do that is they do that to incentivize people to buy goods that are made in their own country, which might be a bad thing. If you live in a country where your manufacturing is shit, and that country has tariffs on items that come from other countries, it's either pay extra for something that's been well produced, or just buy crappily made things. Now, we have seen tariffs throughout the history of the United States. But the important thing to keep in mind, the foreign country does not pay the tariff. You have whoever imports that item and is going to sell it to, we're just going to say America. We're going to talk about Americans here. So whoever is importing that item is the one who pays the tariff. And they always pass on that additional cost to the consumer. They are not going to swallow that cost. So I know there are people out there who think, oh, well, a tariff is a tax on that other country. No, that is not what a tariff is. A tariff is a tax on the consumer. Something else that it's aimed at doing is to try to influence companies into producing goods at home. And as far as like, we'll take a look at, say, the automotive, let's take a look at like the automotive industry, right? So when Japan was importing, I should say, when Japan was exporting tons of autos and everything else to the United States, and the American automakers were getting their asses handed to them, we did have tariffs. And that also helped to incentivize the automakers to open plants here in the United States, which we've also seen these plants go off elsewhere. But we have to keep in mind, tabletop gaming is not the automotive industry. So as far as board games, let's talk board games first, because I don't want to say vast majority, but many of them are made in China. So if we are looking at, let's just, for ease of explanation, if we're looking at 100% tariff on goods from China, and something costs, let's say, and we're just going to use the dollar so we don't get all crazy. So Vaunus says, yes, they'll answer some questions here. Vorpal Byte asks, would a tariff apply to print-on-demand Amazon products? If they're printed in the U.S., no, they shouldn't. That digital aspect, I'm not so sure. Okay, so anyway, so let's say a board game costs $15 to create wholesale, right? So costs $15, and then the publisher sells that to the distributor for $20 wholesale. And then the distributor sells it to game stores, comic book stores that sell games, whatever. They sell it to them for $40. And then the game store is going to turn around and charge you $50. It depends on what kind of overhead they've got and what kind of profit margin they're looking for. But essentially, that's what we're looking at. So if it's 100% tariff, then instead of being $20 wholesale at the distributor level, it's now $40 at the distributor level. And then they're going to price that accordingly to the retailer, who is then going to boost the price on that. So what we're looking at here is essentially, if it's 100% as far as a tariff, you are going to end up paying probably at least twice as much as you currently pay if that product is manufactured in China. So Vorpal Byte says, you have your opinion, I have mine. I'm not sure if he's talking about my opinion or if it's somebody else's opinion. So Stephen points out, already happened years ago during the first trade war. Correct. So we're just talking pricing and what this hobby is going to cost you out of your pocket. Okay. So if we're looking at board games, I think board gamers are going to get hit far worse. Now, the comeback to that would be, well, then that's going to really incentivize manufacturing here in the US to make those games here. But once again, our hobby is a tiny niche hobby. So you are not going to see manufacturing plants emerge simply to make tabletop games. Tain't gonna happen, Dooley, because there isn't enough money in it. Plus, if you look at it this way, let's use the example previously, right? So $15 to manufacture it, the publisher, $20 to the distributor. So they're getting a $5 profit on each of the copies going to that distributor. So they made $5 on something that's made outside of the US, right? Let's say it's in China. Now, if they made it here and the manufacturing cost was higher, sure, they avoid that tariff, the customer does, but the publisher's not going to come out ahead. They would have to raise the price. So let's say, as an example, here in the US, they can make the same game, but it's going to cost $22 to make it as opposed to that $15 in China. Well, that also means that the publisher is going to have to jack that price up before it goes to the distributor. But the reality is, they could still make the $5. They can make that 25% sticking with the Chinese manufacturer because the manufacturer and the publisher aren't worried about it because they're still making their money. It's the consumer here in the US that's going to be on the hook for the additional cost. So Ellen Rowe is with us. As a publisher generally makes 10 to 15% of MSRP. Okay, right. I'm just using examples to give people an idea of how a tariff works, as opposed to, oh, well, it's a tax on the other country. No, it's not. It's a tax on us. It's a tax on the consumer. Tariffs are also there to dissuade buyers from purchasing foreign goods. So, as far as role-playing games, probably not as big a problem, although we do see companies like Cubicle 7 Games, Free League Publishing. It's usually not China that they utilize for their printing. Sometimes it's printers in Poland, in Germany. I know Vanis can definitely tell us more about that. But even if there's a 20% tariff on those goods, then we're still looking at having to pay more out of pocket. For physical books, digital stuff, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think there would be. But then again, like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I was hoping we would have some folks in chat, where it looks like we do, who do have, knowledge because they deal with this stuff. So we've got Stephen from Roll for Combat. We've got TS from Cubicle 7 Games, Vanis, in chat with us. So, just to see what we've got here. Verbal Bite says, are you honestly going to buy imported role-playing games over domestic role-playing games? Depends on what you play. So if you enjoy Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay or Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory or Imperium Maledictus, took me a second. I always takes me a second on that. Any of those games, if you enjoy anything from Cubicle 7 Games, if you enjoy Free League Publishing, if you enjoy, we just had a news piece about Two Little Mice. So household as well as outgunned. So we've got them. Uh, I'll tell you what, I've got Lands of RuneQuest sitting right here from Chaosium, and they are an American company. Let's see, do we get some information on where this is printed? Poland. You would be paying a tariff on this if there's a 20% tariff on European goods. You're going to pay an extra 20. Well, it might be more than that. So, other thing we got to keep in mind too, and I know there's some discussion about this, and that is trade wars. So tariffs are not normally a good thing because you think other countries are going to just sit there and be like, yeah, okay. So China's going to sit there and say, yeah, that's fine. That's all right. You can, add 100% to our goods. We don't mind. No, of course, they're going to do the same thing to goods from the United States. So, and that's where we get into the concept of not only trade wars, but just sitting there and companies here that do very well selling outside the United States, they're going to take a hit as well. Affordable Byte says trade war, bring it on. You said bring it on, bring it on. Obviously, Verbal Byte is not someone who knows anything about this stuff. And, I don't know about anybody out there who watches this show. I think the vast majority of people who hang out and watch this can't afford to be paying twice as much for games. I don't think that's the case. It's just, I don't know. Kabuki Kid says nobody should be eager for a trade war. Yes, because a trade war killed our soybean exports. Flaming Heron says tariffs have to be the last resort. So the reality is, if there are games floating around out there that you've been interested in and you want to have physical copies of, you probably want to add them to your collections now rather than later. So I have heard kind of through the grapevine a little bit that most publishers here in the US who have their games made overseas, probably mainly China, their assumption is that the MSRP on their games is going to jump about 60%. That's kind of their guess. Is that going to be the case? I don't know. Here's something I want to mention that I don't think most of you are aware of. Vaunus and Stephen from Roll for Combat no doubt do. So the Gen Con prior to the COVID outbreak, I was talking to quite a lot of people who I'm friends with in the industry who were there as exhibitors. And there were a good number of them who were companies that you would think are pretty damn successful as far as tabletop gaming. And they were telling me off the record that they weren't sure that they were going to be around the next year, that they were barely hanging on. A few of them had products that were supposed to come out at Gen Con. There were delays, so they weren't able to sell them at Gen Con. And those were like their big new releases. And here they were paying for an exhibitor spot and they didn't have the product to sell. So that was going to be a big kick in the ass for them. But there were companies out there that were just, I mean, you know, and you got to keep in mind, a lot of times people who run game companies, they aren't business people, they're gamers. I mean, one of the reasons why we see failures with Kickstarters isn't because all these people are like, oh, I'm going to go hit please with all this dough. No, it's because they don't know what the hell they're doing. So the truth is, COVID was great for the gaming industry. I don't know how many people out there realize this. I'm sure there are a good number of you who were like, yeah, of course it was good for the game industry because we spent more time buying games and playing games. So COVID was very good for the tabletop gaming industry. We have seen a downturn in the industry in the past 2 years now. So I would not be shocked if I go to Gen Con next year and talk to some of my friends and find that they're back in the same boat that they were prior to COVID-19 hitting. And of course, things like tariffs are going to be just, the death knell to some of them, which, I mean, it's law of the jungle. That's how it works. I mean, I'm not saying anything here or there about it, but I'm just saying I don't think a lot of people realize that the tabletop gaming industry in 2018 was not in very good shape. I know everybody talk about, oh, Dungeons and Dragons was doing well. Yeah, they were doing okay. COVID was fantastic for Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. Anyway, so Warren Rollins says, all their Tales of the Valiant books, Cobalt Press, printed in China. Oh, yeah, because very little is manufactured here anymore. We started to get manufacturing back, and then manufacturing left again. And then my understanding is we were starting to see it come back again. I'm going to guess we'll probably see it just vamoose once again. Dicel says, I would also say that people are going to panic over this, and as time plays out, probably be less of a thing than anyone thinks right now. Ron Turner is with us. Says tariff, kind of anti-competition. Raven says, tariffs on one side is not competition. Kabuki Kid says, printing is easier to ramp up. I would think, just like years ago, I remember talking about like the manufacture of board games and how the first print run of a board game is way, way more expensive than additional print runs. And that's why a lot of times you'll see a game company do a smaller print run to start off with. Hopefully the game is a success. And then, of course, because everything's been tooled already for that game, so they don't incur those same costs again when they do additional print runs. So, GlueNRX says, hopefully companies can move production back faster than they exported all those jobs in industries 20 years ago. So this is where I'd be kind of curious. I'm kind of curious what TS and Steven think of this, because they're publishers. So, I mean, am I like way off base in what I'm saying? I don't know. Smoking Pots is with us. Says, what was the name of the strategy board game based on international tariff wars? I got to be honest, I don't know. But funny enough, I seem to recall there was something that was like that. So Steven says, Where do you get the paper, the ink, the parts, all the other parts necessary to print? China. So yeah, so you'd be paying tariffs on those parts. So Steven says, I think he's saying I'm right. It's going to be a bloodbath. We've been moving everything to digital for years now. So, I mean, I don't have the ear of the president-elect or anything like that. So Kabuki Kid says, wasn't the game just called Trade Wars? But like I said, this is what I have heard from people in the hobby as far as what we're probably looking at. And I don't know. If Americans have way more money in their pockets to sit there and pay more for their expendable, entertainment, maybe it's not such a big deal. But then again, there's no guarantee that's going to happen either. Like I said, I'm not going to get into like the politics of everything. All I'm saying is that some people who I know who are in the industry have been saying, yeah, you're probably looking at best case scenario for board games, about 60%, maybe as high as 100% more. So paying twice as much for your board games, which are made in China, which a great many of them are. Sean says, once Jeff gets his Irish citizenship and a ship, he can start bringing us the goods on the sly. Well, I mean, I'll just take a page out of Joseph P. Kennedy's book. I'll be a gaming bootlegger. TS says, or Bonus says, the last pass of tariffs don't make it past big ticket items, cars, high-end electronics, so who knows? Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I'm just letting people know because I have had people asking emailing asking, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, why don't you make this a topic? Yeah, so there you go. So we lucked out, and we've had Stephen from Roll for Combat, as well as TS Valnus, I should say, from Cubicle 7 Games, hanging with us. So we'll wrap up with chat. Cometh the time, cometh the man. Raven says, I thought your last name was Scottish, not Irish. It is Irish. So if you know much about the Irish, what they would do is, because the Irish normally would be MAC, and the Scots would be MC. So what many Irish did is they changed their last names to MC so that people would think they were Scots. Because you got to realize, if you're not familiar with history, you probably don't know this, but during the 1860s, in fact, during the American Civil War, when immigration to the United States from Ireland was really high, and you actually had Irishmen walking down the plank from the ship they just crossed the ocean on, and there were Union Army recruiters there to sign them up. Because hey, it was easy. They all spoke English. Come on. So you can see this if you look at like old newspapers from that period of time. They're classified ads, like, help wanted ads and things like that in the North. And you would see, blacks and Irish need not apply. Or you'd see blacks and Catholics need not apply because the great majority of the Irish were Catholics. They weren't Protestant. So, yeah. So, strangely enough, I can understand why they were changing their names. Irish, no. We're Scots. We're Scotsmen. But yes, we are Irish. Although my dad was born in Scotland. Interestingly enough. All right. So um Chris Leonard asks, can we have a topic someday on miniatures gaming? We do a ton on RPGs. I don't have a lot of miniatures game stuff. So I mean, I try to have topics that I know something about. Kevin King says the only Irish in their ancestry was a coach boy who ran off to America with the daughter of the house he worked for. Raven asks, was that when America was great again? I don't know. Dice Tells talking about Boardwalk Empire but with cardboard counters. Yeah, that's something that we need. We need a good board game for like the Chicago mob during Prohibition. They all tend to be kind of bland. So, all righty. So there you have our topic for tonight. Scenes by Omnic is with us, I believe. First time visitor in chat. Welcome aboard. Said, watch your reviews, and a lot of really well-received tabletop role-playing games get 8.5, and you say they're very good. Can you do a video running down a review of your top reviews? Snapshot of the top 20 or 30? That we could possibly do. Or, as a topic, I can discuss, what falls in what number. Because a 10 is rare, and a 10 should be rare. I'm not saying it should be impossible, but a 10 out of 10 should not be something that you see, oh, there's another 10 out of 10 this week. Chris Lundgren asks, is print and play a dead format in board games? I don't think it's a dead format for people who are looking for play testers. If somebody is out there and they're looking for someone to give their game a shot, but the thing is, a lot of people don't have printers which are going to do justice to print and play. And a lot of people don't want to waste $50 in ink printing off a game that's print and play. And I mean, I've seen some print and play files where I thought, and you're going to go through 2 cartridges with that. It's like, you're going to pay more to do a print and play than you would if the game was actually there on the shelves. Raven asks, is play by post still a thing? I don't know. Gosh, going way back, I remember companies that actually did play by mail. And I actually was in a couple of games. One was a Star Trek game. Well, but it wasn't officially Star Trek. And another was a fantasy role-playing game. And they were both by the same company. And I was, 14. And I finally quit because Elliot was playing the same games. And it was like, wow, these are very similar in what's going on. Because he would say, oh, okay, my character is going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, all right. It's like, what causes a popular role-playing game to die? I don't know. See, now that'd be a topic I'd be like, I don't know. Warren Rollins says video games are all saying they're 10 out of 10, but everyone else has integrity. Forple Bites says corporate bankruptcy is what causes popular role-playing games to die. You know, I think part of it is because there are role-playing games out there that people think are more popular than they are. So, Kabuki Kid says, I still visit Dragon's Foot. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Dragon's Foot is dying, though. I mean, I thought they still do pretty well. Coco B said last time they did a play-by-post was over 20 years ago. I would think you could probably pull off stuff like play-by-email, but it would probably have to be something pretty lightweight as far as like a board game. Although, I mean, I remember I used to hear about people playing Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, otherwise known as Third Reich, from Avalon Hill Games by mail. And I think I remember by email when computers and the internet was becoming a thing. I don't know. I have no idea. So Chris Lundgren says, so more hype than substance. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of the case. I think that is, yeah, well, I mean, but you got to realize too, I say it all the time, and I think some people don't believe me. This is a niche hobby. It really is. And especially if you're not talking Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're not talking Dungeons and Dragons, and even if you take, like, say, Pathfinder out of the equation, you're looking at a pretty small audience. Alan Rose says loss of IP license can easily kill a popular game. Kabuki Kid says, wasn't it like 600 counters in Third Reich? I don't think it had that many. Well, I mean, it had hundreds. Don't get me wrong. It did have hundreds. I don't think it had 600, though. Because it was very abstracted. So, Shanbot V42 is with us in chat. Says lots of people play by post on Discord. Very cool. Very nice. All right. So what should we talk about tomorrow? Faunus also points out some of the games in it are a niche of a niche. Yeah, like wargaming. Wargaming is a very small niche. Forble Bite says Avalon Hill's best-selling game was Dr. Ruth's sex game. I believe it. I do believe it. Dicetail says campaign for North Africa by mail takes 1,500 hours to play in person. Kabuki Kid says, according to Board Game Geek, Third Reich is not for the faint of heart or the beginner simulation gamer. For 2 to 6 players, 560 counters, which includes one blank one. Well, yeah, in case you lose one. Yeah, we used to play Third Reich. Don't remember ever finishing a game of Third Reich, but I remember having 6-player games of it, and it would be like an entire Saturday afternoon at one of our friends' houses. John Mascola is with us. Says, I hate to imagine the tariffs for Warhammer 40K players. Yikes. Well, as long as Britain doesn't piss anybody off, shouldn't be too bad. If they do, well, I don't know. Yeah, you're going to get it coming and going. Kabuki Kid says Warhammer players are masochistic enough to just spend another 100%. Yeah, that is, that's kind of true. Kind of true. All right. So, yeah, tomorrow night. You know what? Tomorrow night I will discuss how I approach reviews. We'll do that. Plus, keep in mind, every day in November, we're sharing a brand new review. So some of them are written. Tonight's is going to be written. Tomorrow's will be a video from me. So that's what we've been aiming at. So hopefully you've been checking some of those out. I know, yeah. It's like, I make these so you watch them. That's how it kind of works. All right. So, yeah, I think we'll do that. I think tomorrow's show, I will discuss how I put together a game review. So, and I think we'll probably end up focusing more on like, okay, so Jeff, what's the difference between like an 8 and 8.5 as opposed to like a 4 and a 3? So, Cassiopeia Nebula is with us. Welcome aboard just as I'm wrapping up. All righty. So that's it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And I am on a quest to reach 15,000 subscribers before January 1st, 2025. I know we're a ways away. I can dream. I can hope. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you're not going to find here on YouTube. But of course, I should also mention, if you are going to subscribe, then by all means, make sure that you end up ringing that bell because it'll tell you whenever I share reviews, such as my recent review of Mouse Ritter. And yes, I do one time refer to it as Mouse Rita. And of course, by ringing that bell, you'll also be notified when the dispatch streams live. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, because not only were you keeping me company, you were keeping each other company as I was pontificating and sharing tonight's news. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos here on the channel. I will be back tomorrow. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.